Good evening. I hope it can't hear me in the back. Let me know. But I hope everyone's doing well. I want to thank you all for coming to this community forum. My name is Brandon Madden. I'm the city administrator here in Malden, and this evening I'll be serving as moderator for this forum. I want to take an opportunity to take care of what I call housekeeping items. I want to recognize the members of the city council that are here, as well as the mayor. Mayor Merritt is in the back, in the very back. Miss Carol King is here. Mr. Dale Black is here. Also online, we have some council members that are joining us and watching via Zoom. Mr. Taft Matney is online, and I'm sure we have some others as we go. Oh, he's here. He's a magician, just switched up on me. But he's here as well. I do want to recognize former Mayor Wayne Crick is here. So thank you all again for attending. We have three great candidates for the position. Interim Chief George Miller, Lieutenant Darius Hall, and Lieutenant Patrick Fortenberry. When we started this process, the intent was to have a broad search to get a large group of candidates that are qualified and able to serve as police chiefs. Part of the recruitment process was to have community engagement, and this is the second community forum. Back in April, we had a public survey where the responders provided input on what they would like to see in a police chief, some of the priorities they would like to see the chief take over. And we used that information to come up with the job posting and advertisement materials for the position. The first community forum was an opportunity for the public to come and verbally let the Public Safety Committee and the members of council know what they were looking for in a chief. And so this is the second community forum. And so when the public survey was held, respondents were able to provide questions that they would like to ask the police chief. And so our human resources department went through those questions. We received about a little over 90 questions. They identified 5 themes, common themes, because as you can imagine, most folks were asking the same questions, just wording it differently. So they took 5 themes and put together 5 questions that I'll ask each of the candidates. They'll have an opportunity, 3 to 5 minutes or longer, to answer those questions. Once we adjourn this community forum, feel free to ask the candidates. They're going to hang around. Feel free to ask them anything you would like to ask. I'm sure they'll be more than welcome to answer those questions and tell you a little bit about themselves. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to start off just by allowing each candidate an opportunity to introduce themselves to you, tell you a little bit about their background, their history in law enforcement, some of their career accomplishments, and what they would bring to the table or to the city of Malden as a chief of police. So Interim Chief Miller, if you could start us off. No, turn it back green, it's already on.
Okay. Good evening. My name is George Miller. I've been in law enforcement for 23 years, 19 of it's been in Malden. I'm married to Heather Miller. We've been married 28 years. We've got 2 kids and 4 wonderful grandkids. I've spent 19 of my 23 years in Malden, as I said. I've been, even though I'm not a hometown guy or I wasn't born here, I feel like this is my home. I feel like the officers here, I've got everything. I've been invested with them. They're the support that I need and I get from them. Also, I'm invested in the community. We're getting officers out in the communities and doing more in the communities. Let me get my thoughts together. But like I say, it's been a great 19 years of being in Malden because I've built many relationships with officers in the community, both residents and the business owners.
Thank you, Chief. Lieutenant Hall.
Good evening. My name is Darius Hall. I'm a lieutenant at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, where I have served for the past 28 years. I did spend eight months working at Perry Correctional when I came home from the United States Air Force as a jet mechanic on C-141s, and I served during the Gulf War. This is my home. I've spent my entire life in Greenville, with the exception of the 4 years that I served in the United States Air Force. When I came home, I married Carmen Burgos, who's seated here in about the 3rd row. That's my wife. She currently works at the Greenville County Detention Center, where we both serve the county of Greenville. I come from a family of service. My grandfather was military, my mother's military as well. My current assignment at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office is I serve as the lieutenant in public affairs, but also I've served as the in public affairs, where my job is to go out, introduce myself to the community and build relationships to try to build bridges between law enforcement and the community. That has given me a huge new outlook on law enforcement. I've realized that there's, as it is portrayed, especially in Greenville County, we have citizens that love our law enforcement. I believe as chief, we just need to continue to serve everyone, give everyone a fair service, and everything will be fine. And just participate and act like we're a part of the community, not just law enforcement where you pack up and you go home. I see Malden as a growing city. With my past 28 years of law enforcement, you're going to have a hard time finding many things that I haven't seen. I've been on scene for officer-involved shootings. I've been an officer that was involved in a shooting. I served 15 years on the SWAT team. I assisted in building our first gang unit, our first meth team. I worked in uniform patrol and in several different parts of investigations. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. And if I'm given this job, I won't let you down. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Fortenberry.
Thank you. My name is Patrick. Appreciate you all taking the time to come here to listen to us, hear some of our philosophies that we have. This is kind of a surreal experience for me just a little bit because I am a hometown guy. Grew up here in the Malden community, went to Malden High School, or as they're trying to say now, Malden's High School. Where I fell in love in law enforcement was here at the Malden Police Department. It's good seeing the Explorer post back there. That's where I had my first look into law enforcement as a career. I was able to meet good officers that worked at this agency who guided me. After leaving the Explorer post, I went to school at USC, so I'm sorry, Clemson fans. Sorry about that. But we did that, and after college, I was hired by the Greer Police Department. Greer is an incredible community. It's another local community, and it's been good to me. Just as Lieutenant Hall said, Greenville County is privileged. We have good community members that support us, no matter what the national media or other news outlets may put out there and put in front of us. We truly have people that care about their community. They want to take care of their community. And I think that's what all three of us want to do. At the Greer Police Department, I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different aspects. I've got a wide experience. You've probably seen my resume online, so I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but I've had experience in pretty much every division within the police department. That's practical experience being an officer as well as a supervisor in those sections. And as I progress through the ranks, you have to start thinking more globally rather than just a single team. So I feel that I've got a good global perspective on law enforcement, on issues that are affecting our communities, where some feel neglected, where the growth that is taking place sometimes affects our communities in ways that we hadn't imagined. And we've dealt with some of those issues, and I've dealt with some of those issues, and would do that as your chief as well. Appreciate the opportunity and look forward to talking with you.
Thank you. One of the common themes that the Human Resource Department identified after reviewing the questions that the public submitted dealt with community policing. So Lieutenant Hall, you can start off with this question: community-oriented policing within the department to, number one, facilitate positive interactions between police officers and members of the community, and also getting to know the local businesses and their needs.
Okay, it's all about getting out the office, getting out your car, interacting with people. Similar to the way it was when I was hired back in the 90s. Community policing requires you to get to know the community, let them get to know who you are, and kind of understand what you're all about. It's all about education, prevention, and intervention first. You have to help educate the community. It's hard with families having both parents work. So we take some responsibility in having to help educate people on what's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, and especially the consequences. What I've learned is a program that I run, it's called Juvenile Justice Jeopardy, where we interact with middle school and high school children. And it's built upon the types of arrests that we make in Greenville County. And what we learn learned is that a lot of the kids actually know the law and understand what they're doing wrong, but what they didn't know is what are the potential penalties in the end. And a lot of times when you're standing before that family court judge as a juvenile, that's when it's too late. So we have to save our children. So you have to build that relationship. And as your chief, you have to help your subordinates understand and have a clear picture on how we're going to do that. And there's programs that are already out there, and there's grants for those programs where it doesn't cost the city a dime to implement those things and get it out there so we can help our citizens.
Thank you. Interim Chief Miller, if you want me to repeat the question, just let me know.
If you would. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. What would be your approach to implementing community-oriented policing within the department to, number one, facilitate positive interactions between police officers and members of the community and getting to know the local business community and their needs?
I've sort of got a jump start on this, being the interim chief. In the past, we were more focused on reactive and traffic oriented details. So once I took the position of interim chief, one of the main things I wanted to do was to be out in the community more. I felt like there was a gap there. It's like I say, it's not as bad as the news media makes it out to be, but I feel that there's a gap there. I was on the first COP grant in 1997 and 1998 I'm 98 and 99 when I started here. And we had 4 officers. We went out, we interacted with these, and we brought everybody together. It was a great time at that point. And then at some point we sort of left community policing to the side and, like I say, focused on the traffic and the you're fine. And the reactive. So when I took over, I got with the officers and had them to I had to explain to them that there's more than just traffic, more than just answering calls. We need to get out in the community, and I think that's what the community is wanting from us. So what we did was officers are driving through the neighborhoods, getting out and talking to people. I get calls every day from community members that say they've never seen the police unless they need them. Even had one officer, they called and said he parked at the end of the street and walked all the way down the street, talking to everybody out in their yards and stuff. One of the first things I did too is we had a liaison job that was open. It's been open for a couple of years. So what we did, we rebranded it as community liaison officer. And basically what he does is he gets out in the community. When the officers can't, he makes contact with business owners. He makes contacts with HOAs and goes to their meetings and stuff. He's been instrumental in doing cookouts for communities. We've had one cookout at Springfield Park where we had a good turnout. We did National Night Out. Like I say, the officers and like I say, with the community seeing this, they get buy-in. Like I say, they call and talk to me and let me know that they appreciate it. The officers and myself, I don't believe in sitting behind the closed door. As he said, that I believe that we need to get out, and I've gotten out and I've met with a bunch of the community members, the business owners. Officers are going by and doing property checks, business checks, and things like that. So I think just the more interaction with the community and getting out, like at our sporting events and city events, we have officers at all city events. We used to at the sporting events, we didn't, but we put the officers at sporting events for security mainly, but also so that the community can interact with the officers. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback off of that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. One of the things that I feel with community policing is it does create those opportunities for us to have those positive interactions with community members. All too often we have calls for service, and usually when we're called, it's not the best time in the life of that individual. So being able to have community policing in your agency creates those positive interactions. It also helps us create partnerships. And when we say partnerships, I'm talking about relationship building. It's relationship building with your community members that you serve, business owners that are in your city, those that work in the city. You've got 3 basic different types of communities within a municipality. So you'd want to make sure that you create good relationships with them. And when you're developing those relationships, you're hearing concerns from the residents, the business owners on issues that are taking problem solved together. It's about these partnerships where you're not the one saying, this is what we need to do. You're working with community members that both of you agree on. Community policing is a philosophy that has to be from the top down. It can't be something that is something that you say and you as a chief don't believe in. The officers will see that, and if they see that you don't fully believe in it, they're not going to feel that they're going to meet your expectation that you have. So it has to be a top-down approach. We have a community outreach officer, and he's great at handling some of these large-scale events. But every one of our officers in our current agency are community police officers. It's every officer's responsibility to interact with the community on a daily basis that you work. The relationships that you get, the problems that you're able to solve are very much more attuned once you're able to develop those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the other common themes from the respondents who submitted questions has to do with the growth of the city. City continues to grow, not only in its jurisdictional boundaries, but in its population as well. Knowing that, as police chief, how would you address the city's growth as it relates to the operations within the police department? And we'll start off with Lieutenant Portenberry.
Malden certainly is a growing city. No new census details should be coming out soon. They've probably been released to the administration there. Growth is something that is going on all here in the upstate. As I mentioned earlier, with growth come issues, things that were expected with infrastructure needs, with service needs. And as the community grows, services that the city of Malden will have to provide grows as well. So one of the things as chief that I would make sure is that we're not taxing our officers too much and that we have the appropriate staffing levels for that. There are staffing models that are out there that you look at, whether it's the IMCA or SPI in Louisville, Kentucky, to look to make sure that you have the most appropriate staffing levels. Because you don't want your officers to be overworked. If officers are overworked, then sometimes they're not as professional as they need to be. And in this day and time, you have to be at the top of your game every day. Every interaction that you have with a member of the public or a business member could have ramifications that would be long lasting. We've seen some of those across our country here in the past couple of years and longer. So we want to make sure that we provide the appropriate resources to be able to service the needs of our community. I spent several hours just driving through the community here this past weekend with my wife, who's here to be recognized here today. But we drove around, we're just amazed at the growth. And one good thing that I can say that I've seen, and I've worked with, of course, our city council in Greer, but I've had the opportunity to meet and know a few of the city council members here, is they're very forward thinking. And that's a luxury that some cities don't have. And their ability to be able to forecast some of these needs has been good. And I will make sure that the police department is able to respond to the community needs as they come up. One of the biggest things you see with growth is traffic. The infrastructure with the road systems. I know there are a lot of plans that are in the works here for East Bella Road area specifically. But when you're adding subdivisions and townhomes and apartment complexes, we're taxing infrastructure needs that would also need to be looked at. Traffic concerns that come with that falls under the police department. But we need to make sure we're visible in our communities to be a deterrent and also to educate people that are in those areas on being able to obey the traffic laws that are out there.
Thank you. Interim Chief Miller.
Like I say, I've been here since 1998, so I've seen Butler Road go from a 2-lane road to a 2-lane road with a median. I've seen Holland Road where it was just a farm at that point, and then we had schools. I see where we're going in the future because I come to the council meetings and I see we're annexing and we're zoning stuff for properties to come in. We have the Bridgeway connection and the town center project that's starting up. So we're definitely going to be needing more officers. So in the, I've done a 3-year staff analysis where it says right now, we don't need officers in the next 3 years. We're probably going to need 12 officers over the next 3 years. Also, we've, with the new downtown project and the project on Holland Road, we're going to need more services for those. So in the CIP, I've put in there for UTVs, so the officers can patrol down through there. There'll be officers assigned to those areas at most of the time. And we'll also have them for the trails because we have a trail that's open. We're eventually going to open up in the Swamp Rabbit Trail, so we'll have to do that. Also with the growing city, we're going to need more officers because it's the response time. We have a really good response time now, but we're so far past our borders now that we're going to need more officers to help out with our response time.
Thank you.
Okay. A lot of the answers already been touched on, but just in addition to that, I think I would just use technology to our advantage. I'm not sure if Malden already has GPS in their vehicles, but if they do, just ensure that dispatch can see where our officers are at and to get them dispatched efficiently. I think also it'd be the chief's responsibility to keep the members that take care of city planning well abreast and be their eyes and ears out in the street so they can stay ahead of the game as far as knowing what type of issues we're seeing and working together as a team. It shouldn't be a problem keeping up with the growth of Malden. Thank you.
Mental health needs is another one common themes that was touched on in a lot of the questions that members of the public submitted to the city. More and more often, it seems that law enforcement officers are serving as first responders to mental health crisis calls to do their job safely and effectively during these types of calls. Interim Chief Miller.
Yes, we have a really good budget. The city is very good with us as far as a budget, as far as training. So all of our officers, according to the academy, they have to go through mental health training every 3 years. We do it every year. All the officers have gone to classes as far as dealing with mental issues. Also, we're sending the officers to the NAMI classes. We also have about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's on our website. It's a form where if we run across somebody that has mental health issues, we can fill out that form and flag it in the CAD. And also that way the officers know when they go out there and they know prior to getting there that what they'll more than likely be dealing with. Also, the family members can fill that form out and we'll put it in the CAD for them. Training is the most important part. And like I say, with our budget, we have, the training is just unbelievable how much these officers have gotten in dealing with mental health patients.
Thank you. Lieutenant Hall.
Yes, I'm the NAMI coordinator for the Greenville County Sheriff's Office at this time. And also there's an additional program, Mental Health First Aid, which is put on through the hospital system. I think both of those are excellent programs. I think the Mental Health First Aid program is actually a little more affordable. It doesn't put the officers out of the work source, out of work rotation for a full week. It's an 8-hour class, and the difference is the NAMI class is a one-time deal, and you're certified. The Mental Health First Aid, you have to come back, I believe it's every 3 years, to get a refresher on what you learned. And I truly believe that if you don't use the chief, we could probably find business partners, grants to where we can put some of that, and for lack of a better word, that responsibility or burden mental issue, they're going to respond better to people that they know rather than that uniform when we show up. So if we can get the people that are calling us to respond, get them some of the training to where they can properly handle their loved one, that's going to drastically reduce the number of interactions and cut down the opportunity to have negative interactions between law enforcement and someone that's having a mental issue. Thank you.
Mental health is issues. Law enforcement answer calls for service every day. Maybe sometimes the majority of the calls we receive deal with people with mental health issues. When I had the opportunity to start our training team and my current agency, one of the first things that I was able to implement is to get that NAMI training. We were one of the first agencies in Greenville County to get that training. We have 100% of our officers on the road that are currently trained because we believe in it that heavily. We do annual training as well with it. We've also got a very good relationship. The South Carolina Department of Mental Health has a good team, CCRI, it's the Community Crisis Response Initiative that they've got. It's a incredible resource where they have, when our officers are out on scene, and we've used them several times. We've used them on some of the calls that we need an expert to be able to assist us. We place a call, and usually within 45 minutes, we have a trained mental health professional or more than one on scene to be able to help us. They are able to talk with the individuals that our officers are dealing with. Our officers there to be able to provide them safety during that interaction. And they're also able to talk with family members to give them resources that they can use that could help prevent further calls for service with this particular individual or at a particular residence. So that's a great resource that is out there for all agencies here in the state of South Carolina. Our officers do a lot of training. One of the job responsibilities I have is being over our hostage negotiation team. And we have a lot of in-depth training. Majority of our barricaded subjects and suicidal calls that we are on are people that are in a mental health crisis. We also have brought training to our department on people who are on the autism spectrum. It's something that is getting to be pretty common in our area, at least. And I would anticipate here in the Greenville area on how to effectively de-escalate individuals that are on the autism spectrum, because there's things that normal de-escalation techniques that you try to use that would cause the situation to go a whole lot worse for those on the autism spectrum. So mental illness is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I have tried and would continue to make sure that the officers here in this department receive the best training, because it will make them safer and will also provide better treatment options out here for those that are in crisis at the time.
Thank you. Diversity was another one of the common themes from the questions that were submitted. Mr. Fortenberry, why is diversity in law enforcement important? And what would be your approach to managing diversity in the city's police department?
Diversity is even more important now than it ever was with the issues that are going on in law enforcement. You want your police department to closely mirror the community that you're in. It's hard getting minorities at the time to apply and get through the background process. So you have got to get past wait and they'll come to us. That's not going to happen. There are trust issues within communities that we have to work on. And you can't do that sitting behind the desk. You have to do that through personal relationships. Those personal relationships that I would seek to form some of our minority-owned businesses here within the community itself. And any events where there might be minorities present is going to be good opportunities. We've done career fairs at and you've got to get out and be willing to confront issues and speak openly about issues that are present in law enforcement and create a culture of what I call cultural competence, where we have understanding of each other. We understand ourselves and we understand what others have been through in order to be able to know how to effectively respond to people as we're dealing with them. Diversity is something that is very important with me. Another thing that we have done here in order to increase minority recruitment for officers in our department is we've reached out to community staff able to help us and assist us. We have to change our marketing messages that we're getting out to be able to attract those that wouldn't just come, apply at the police department. We have to change the messaging so that we can reach the younger people. We also need to not wait till it's time to hire somebody. We need to be out in the communities, forging relationships with those that are in our communities, with all people. We need to be working with elementary school kids. We have just been able to get back into our elementary schools, of course, due to COVID, where we can do some great training similar to what Greenville City does, gang resistance and education training, where they are able to see officers at a young age in a positive light. We have officers in the middle schools, just as Malden does here, in order to work on those relationships. We have numerous events. We have youth camps that we have in order to develop those relationships where you're developing these relationships at a young age and fostering those as the person grows up. Um, Another great opportunity is that you can see through statistics is Explorer programs. It is a great opportunity. The Career Center here in Malden with its law enforcement program that is here is another great opportunity to be able to form relationships that would help us be able to recruit minority members and ensure that we have the diversity we need within this agency.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
All right. Touch on a couple of things that weren't touched on already. Did a good job of covering a lot of that. But being a minority that grew up just right down the street in District 25, the current attempts that law enforcement is making to reach out to other minorities is not quite working. It's going to take a little bit more than playing basketball, a little bit more than dancing, you know, with the kids. That's great to start that relationship. But where are you going with it after that? You still run into some of the, like either the stereotypes, some of the over policing. I think that there's just a genuine lack of trust that we have to find a way to fix. And I think I have a solution working a little bit so far, but COVID has made it very difficult to talk to groups of people at a time. But I truly believe that number one, if you can find things that it's going to affect someone long-term, for instance, driving under suspension, that's an offense that's against the state. It needs to be addressed. You can't just turn a blind eye to it, but you can find, say, something that's in public service, whether it's helping to clean, whether you have someone sign up to help with slipping my mind. Basically, there's a program where we take food out to the elderly, people who cannot get out to get their meals, where they can volunteer, and that saves that criminal history later, which they only did something that wasn't very smart at the time that they were young. And there's so many other options. And all it takes is having an agency, a city that's willing to do it, work with the solicitor's office, and have judges that don't mind getting on board with minor offenses that can be addressed. And how that comes into play is, and this is just strictly my opinion, but I speak from personal experience. There's a lot of homes where you just have a single parent, and a lot of times it's the mother in minority homes, and these children come out in the streets, teach them. So we have to get ahead of that. And it goes back to what I said before about the education, prevention, and intervention. So you build a relationship with these children, and you have to start in elementary school, because if you don't, the gangs will have them already. You just build that relationship. If they slip up, give them a second chance. Everyone gets a second chance, and see if that works. I think it's very doable. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Miller.
Can you read the question one more time?
Absolutely. Why is diversity in law enforcement important? And what would be your approach to managing diversity in the city's police department?
Well, I'd say they've touched on just about everything, but I think it's very important that we have diversity in our department. And as I said, it starts in school. That way that they can get them before they get too old and their mind is washed that all police officers are bad, or you don't want to have anything to do with law enforcement. You don't want to be a police officer. What we do is, and the community policing also, that's a very big part of it. So when these officers go out here, they're in these areas for 6 weeks. We may extend it longer. That way the officers can build a rapport with the children and stuff in their community, so that they can and get them to join the Explorers and the Career Center and go through the law enforcement program there at the police department. And we have 27 minorities out of that 57, whether it's female, Hispanic, African-American, or LGBTQ community. They weren't hired because of their preference, their color, or their age or anything like that. They were hired because we have a diverse hiring board. Everybody on our board, we alternate it. We have different sexes on it. We have different races on it. We just have a large diverse group that we pick for to do the hiring boards. Then it gets sent to me, and like I say, they've done such a great job. I don't think Chief Turner's ever turned anybody down if they were recommended. So if we keep doing that, I think we're above par on minority right now, but I think we'll stay that way if we continue doing what we're doing, dealing with the community, the kids, and having a diverse hiring board.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, police officer training. As police chief, what would be your approach to implementing a officer training regimen that spurs equitable and effective policing?
Well, I believe in cost-effective training, and I have found that one of the easiest ways to do that is participate in the train-to-trainer programs. And what that consists of is you find 5 or 6 of your trainers, you send them off. They learn how to train the people and they bring it to your agency, and therefore they train them for free. The only thing that you're spending is your salary, your hourly salary, instead of paying 3 or 4 deputies, I'm sorry, 3 or 4 officers every so many months to go off to training. And when they're gone, they're not here, they can't work, and you're still paying that fee. You have to pay for their per diem, you have to pay for the hotel. So if you use a train-to-trainer program, that's gonna significantly cut down the amount of money that you spend on training. And then just secondly, just find out what is most productive. I think there are times where we spend a lot of time and money on training that you already have it. I was a 15-year guy on the SWAT team, and I used to joke, there's only so many ways you can come through the door, but you have to keep practicing coming through that door. So find other training. Because after 15 years, if you don't have it, you're not going to get it. So find something that you're lacking in and spend money on that to bring everyone up to here, and then you'll be better off as an agency.
Thank you. Mr. Fortenberry.
Being good stewards of the taxpayers' money is where, if you want to spend money, you need to spend it with training. There's several reasons for that. First off, better trained officer is a more professional officer, and that's who you want responding to your house, your business, to be able to answer the calls for service. The more training they have, the more professional that they'll be. Another good thing that we've seen with training is it's good for employee retention. It allows an officer to hear from subject matter experts who have walked the talk, have done what they are teaching, and you want to vet the training that you're sending them to. One of the things that we started with our officers in our agency is we partnered with one of the local universities, North Greenville University, and had them develop a training program for our officers that came in and taught our entire department. We've expanded that to emotional intelligence for our officers as well. They have discussed empathy, and most recently, the newest training that we have had North Greenville do for us goes to our patrol key, to SPI, to the PTO program, which is similar to it's what you train, the program you train officers in once they graduate from the academy, where they get the real world experience with a veteran officer. So they developed a in-house training program for us where we would be better stewards of taxpayers' money. But like I said, one of the things that I would ensure, and once again, when I was in training, I spent several years in training, is make sure that the quality training that you're giving the officers is going to be used. The train-the-trainer programs are incredible. We use them quite a bit as well, and can continue to do reoccurring training with our officers. Look for alternative means and grants. There are a multitude of grants to be able to do training that's out there as well that we've been able to do. We've been able to do several active shooter trainings here over the past several years through a company out of Texas, free of charge. The government, federal government, paid for those. And you want to make sure that you're giving a broad spectrum of training. They're good generalists. They know a lot about a lot of different little things. And then when they're in specialized sections, you give them specialized training to be able to perform their jobs better. But you definitely want to invest in training for the officers.
Mr. Miller.
We've been gracious enough to be given a great line item as far as budget, or a line item budget for training by council. We make sure that all the officers have the proper basic training that they need. According to the academy, whenever we recertify every 3 years, we got to have at least 40 hours of training. Probably the least we have right now is an officer with 90 hours of training in that 3-year period. We're constantly training, whether it's online, whether it's going to classes. Like I say, COVID took over last year, so most of the classes went online. We also make sure with our training, like, as we said before, that we do the mental health training, make sure that they're really up on that, since that is a hot topic and something that I believe that we need to work on. And so also the what we do with corporals and above, we want to make sure that they get all the leadership training that they can get so that they can pass that information on to the people below them, and so that they can be ready for the next level. What we're trying to do now is we're trying to send all the sergeants and the supervisors to the FBI command college, and also the FBI leader classes, which are great for supervision. We have a young department right now, and as much as they can get, because they're going to be our future, they're going to be the ones taking care of us later on down the road. So they need that training to advance their careers. We do a career development plan with the officers, and we basically what they set out what their career development plan they plan on doing in the future. It changes from time to time, but that's what we focus on classes for them. Whenever we come up on classes that an officer has in his career development plan, we can put those officers in his classes. And thank you.
Thank you. So those are the themes that the Human Resources Department identified, but we want to have an opportunity for you to share just closing thoughts on who you are, kind of your management style. What will you bring to the police department? The Malden Police Department provides great public service, great law enforcement services to this community. CALEA accredited, annually ranked as one of the safest communities in the state, nationwide as well. So just kind of share what you would want everyone to know about you, your management style, some of your leadership attributes, things that you're going to bring to the table if you're to lead this department. Mr. Miller.
Sir. Just cut up. What was the question? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Share your closing thoughts.
I need to breathe.
What do you want to leave the community members that are here, those that are viewing online? What do you want them to know about you as we conclude the community forum?
Okay. Like I said, I've been in Malden. Like I say, I'm not from Malden, but I've spent most of my adult life in Malden, providing services for the community, providing protection, helping the businesses out, and trying to push that towards the younger officers to get out and do that also. The type of leadership style I like and what I have is I like the teaching style. I learned this from a supervisor when I was a patrolman. What the corporal should be doing is training the officer his position so that when he moves up or he leaves, somebody can take that position. Same thing as a sergeant. The sergeants are training the corporals. I have a lieutenant that's very knowledgeable of the position that I was in prior to becoming this. That's because I showed her what I need to be going on. I don't know. I don't profess to know everything, but we'll get through anything that comes our way. And like I say, the safety of the community is my biggest thing, and that's what I'm going to bring to the table. Is we have the best officers out here. We're the 10th safest city in the state of South Carolina because of these officers out here, and it's because they're out getting their jobs done the correct way. They're driving through the neighborhoods, catching people breaking into cars, catching people breaking into houses, and catching people lingering around businesses at night when they're closed. So that's what I'm. Thank you,
Mr. Miller. Mr. Hall.
Well, I believe in servant leadership. If your men and women don't buy into your vision, if they don't, or your military people believe that you're squared away, that you're capable of doing the job, they're not going to follow you. And no matter what your record is, how many accomplishments you have, you're going to fail if they don't buy in, because they're where the rubber meet the road. And I lead from the front. I get out in the office a lot. I participate. I've even been spoken to about making arrests. It's like, you're supposed to be supervising, but I didn't forget how to rest. Well, currently for all of Greenville County, it's approximately 800 square miles, a little bit over 600 and something thousand people. That's what I'm used to dealing with on a daily basis. It's almost like drinking from a fire hose, but I've learned to manage that and have done it well over the last 28 years. There's nothing but commitment from me. I've had ups and downs. I don't let it stop me. I don't let it get our people down. I'm right there with them when they're going through hard times. I've lost beat partners. lost community members who were great people, who were great partners that I've dealt with. And you feel that when you lose those people. And the bottom line is, I care. You're gonna have a hard time finding someone that's been through as many things professionally, dealing with law enforcement, with the guys and women that violate the law and they don't care about whether or not you or your partners go home or whose home they have violated. But you still don't let it stop you from caring. So I say all that to say this. I'm a professional police officer. I love this job. I love the opportunity to bring all the experience that I've gained over the last 28 years from Greenville County and bring that here. And it costs you nothing but a salary. They have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on me to learn to be an investigator, to be a supervisor, and just to be a good police officer. So thanks again for your time. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Fortenberry.
One of the things that I hear when I'm talking with officers in our agency sometimes is there's a feeling that command staff members lose touch sometimes. Lucky for me, I'm one who I've got more tickets than some of our officers on the road, and I am a command staff member, so I do believe in working alongside the officers. I think I mentioned before is modeling the way. Actions speak louder than words. I think officers will hear what I expect of them and they'll see me doing that as well. I think that goes a long way. If there's changes that need to be made, one of the easiest ways to do that, to find out what those changes are to involve the officers in that process. Let them be a part of the change if there is a change that needs to be made. And so I have that type of leadership style where I want involvement. I want feedback. I'm a approachable person, whether or not it's officers as well. I'll definitely make myself available. When I'm doing something and I commit myself to it, I invest myself fully into it. That's what I'll do for your community and this department as well.
Thank you. I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your schedule to come and speak with this great community here in Malden. We're looking forward to moving forward with this process. I want to thank you all for attending and listening. Feel free, once this is over, to ask any of the candidates any questions that you may have. And I'm sure they will be more than welcome to talk with you, share their thoughts, let you know how they feel and what they can bring to the table as a police chief. I mentioned earlier how much I believe in the police department and our officers and what they do every day, providing great law enforcement services, regardless if we're in a pandemic or not. They're out there. And so we want somebody, and the council has made it clear they want a chief that will continue that trend. So that concludes the community forum. Feel free to talk to these folks and be here if you have any questions or concerns. But thank you again. I do want to make sure it's clear, because I mentioned to the mayor I would, even though we may have a quorum of council here, no actions are being taken, and this isn't any city business that's going on. This is a staff-driven initiative for the forum. And again, I thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you.